Real quickly, before I begin, join my Discord, the link's in the description. Enjoy the video. The most recent major update to Phantom Forces has been interesting. A few guns got nerfed, but there were way more that have been buffed, and as a result, the meta has been turned on its head. There's just one problem. I am still seeing so many M16A3s in every single server I join. Now, mind you, the M16A3 is still a very competitive weapon in the current meta, and I'll get to why in a bit. But there's so many other absolutely insane options available, and I just wanted to go over them in this video just so you're aware that there is a new meta in Phantom Forces, and it is by far the most fun meta we've had in years, and which guns that you should be pre-buying these days. So let's get started. First, I'd like to address a video of mine that is now outdated. In fact, the second most viewed video I've posted here. You should absolutely pre-buy snipers now, but only this one. This is the SVDS, and well, why don't I just show you? Yeah, this thing is broken now. No matter what map you're playing on, the SVDS is just absurd. Playing a long-range map like Highway Lot, no problem. Just slap on the 10/3.5mm conversion and enjoy the ridiculous velocity and fire rate. Close range map, the 9.6mm conversion can torso kill up to 69 studs. Nice. And if it's something in between, just use default ammo. I don't know what they were smoking when they buffed the SVDS, but yeah, as of me writing this, the SVDS is the only sniper worth pre-buying. Next, we have the Type 58, not the Type 88, that's still easily the worst assault rifle in the game, but the Type 58, because this conversion is officially back. Its recoil increase compared to default ammo is basically unnoticeable, and honestly, I just think they forgot to give it more recoil when buffing it, which also applies to the SVU, because that was also supposed to get new recoil alongside the buffs, and it just sort of didn't. I mean, the M107 got it. Granted, this recoil change was more of a buff to the gun, but the SVU and the Type 58 didn't? That's dumb, but anyway, the Type 58 is a direct upgrade to the AKM. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. It has better fire rate, better recoil, better damage, better reload speed, and it also inherits one of the only redeeming qualities of the Type 88, which is its amazing hipfire. This is one of the best all-around assault rifles in the game, and it's great at all ranges, so it's definitely worth pre-buying even if the base Type 88 is still garbage. Next up, we have the C7A2. Most of you were gonna pre-buy this anyway, but I'd like to mention one aspect of it that makes it even more overpowered, and that's the 6.5 Grendel conversion. This conversion has a recoil layering system that makes it continuously climb up similar to the MG42, but giving the C7A2 a 3-shot limb makes it well worth the time you have to spend learning to pull the mouse down. This also applies to the M16A3 as well, which is why that gun hasn't been completely dumpstered by this update and is still probably a top 10 assault rifle right now. Rounding out the assault rifles, we have the SCG-44. This rifle is in the strongest state it's ever been in. Keep in mind that it's always been super overpowered, essentially acting like a 30-round battle rifle that could 2-shot torso up to 50 studs or so, and then they changed it to fire at 550 RPM, but without the ability to 2-shot, but it was still very good. And a week later, they gave the SCG-44 its 2-shot torso back, and yes, it still gets to keep that extra RPM from earlier. And now, the SCG-N, its 5.56 conversion, is basically a pre-nerf RPK-74, albeit with a bit more recoil, but it's still very accurate and powerful, with the ability to 4-shot to the torso at all ranges. Next up, we have one of my current favorite PDWs in the game. The AKS-74U is no longer a worse MP5-10 now. It has this abomination of a damage graph, but you can just kind of ignore that for now. This gun can 3-shot up close and 5-shot all ranges, with solid recoil and RPM, and it has really fast handling as well. However, my favorite part of this gun has to be its 7.62 conversion. It makes the recoil a lot shakier, but it's still surprisingly accurate and is one of the strongest CQC guns in the game. I highly recommend checking this one out. The 5.0. The hammer is the biggest winner out of the LMG category because not only did it get a massive RPM buff, but muzzle booster makes it even stronger, causing it to ramp up much faster and start at a higher RPM than normal. It's pretty clunky to use at times, and the RPM is getting nerfed in the test place, but it's still worth pre-buying because the RPM nerf is also going to come with a general damage buff that lets the hammer 4-shot to the torso at all ranges. And best of all, the 9mm conversion is returning. So yeah, invest in this one, although, and I cannot stress this enough, you need muzzle booster to make it work. It sucks without it, since you need to pre-fire a 5th year magazine for the RPM to be of any use. So yeah, if you're gonna pre-buy the hammer, you're gonna have to pre-buy muzzle booster as well, because it's gonna be unusable without it. None of the carbines got any massive direct changes, but the other day I went up against someone who was using the C8A2 with the Grendel conversion I was talking about earlier, and it made me want to jump off a cliff, so I decided to try it out myself. Yeah, this thing's pretty ridiculous. Well, those are the guns I would recommend pre-buying. The new meta consists of far more than just mid to high rank weapons. Some of the best guns nowadays are actually fairly within reach of most players. The AUG A1 and M16A4 both got enormous buffs and are far stronger than before the update. The AUG A1 got a huge reload buff that brought it from 2.8 seconds down to 2.4. And I gotta say, this might be my favorite change from the whole update. The AUG A1 has always been my favorite AUG, but the reload time on it was really holding it back, especially since it was so desynced. Now that the AUG A1 has a much faster reload and its desync was mostly fixed, it's been a far more enjoyable assault rifle for me to use, and I hope more people pick it up in the future, because it genuinely is a really nice assault rifle, especially for only being ranked 20. The M16A4 got buffed, well sorta. It's more like a rework, and I'm not so sure if I'm a fan of it as someone who has over 19,000 kills on the gun. Before the rework, the M16A4 was quite easy to learn. All you had to do was click exactly 4 times per second and you've pretty much got it. Sure, it was weird since most PF players are allergic to burst weapons, but considering that this has been one of the best assault rifles for years, it was worth the learning curve. However, this rework brought back one feature that previously made the M16A4 borderline unusable back in the day: the dreaded interruptible burst. Now you have to hold left click for the duration of the burst, which can be really annoying and also really punishing, because if you mess this up, your next burst won't be all 3 rounds, it'll just be whatever rounds you didn't fire in your previous burst. So what's the upside? Well, not only does the M16A4 have access to the gremlin bolts we discussed earlier, but it also got 2 direct buffs that addressed some of the most serious issues it had. The first thing they did was they made the burst delay shorter. You can burst this gun crazy fast now, nearly at the same rate as the old hyper burst. The second thing they did was give it brand new layered recoil. Before this change, the M16A4 was just camera recoil and it went straight up. Since recoil resets after each burst, the M16A4 wasn't really able to beam people like it was supposed to. There's less camera recoil now, but more rotational recoil, so the best grip to use on the M16A4 is sideways grip now. Overall though, the M16A4 is way more accurate than it was before, and it doesn't really feel as confined to close range. The last thing I should mention is that they nerfed Sharps a while back, and it no longer reloads insanely quickly, which annoys me because Sharps gives the M16A4 the ability to 3-tap head at all ranges, which would actually mean something now that the gun can hit 3 headshots at that point with its improved accuracy. Essentially acting like a way faster version of the G11. But we can have nice things, I guess, so yeah. But anyways, give the M16A4 a try. It's great with all 3 of its conversions and is absolutely still in the top 5 assault rifles in the game. Next up we have the AUG A2, which is quite possibly the single best gun in the entire game right now. It currently outclasses about 90% of autos due to its ability to 3-tap limb out to around 60 studs at 750 rounds per minute with a 2.3 second reload. And of course, because it's an AUG, it has to have no recoil, and none of this is even taking into consideration the 7.62 conversion, which is an absolute meme in itself. If you've ever watched any of my most recent streams, you'll probably have seen me abusing the hell out of this thing before. I prefer default ammo on it for the non-existent recoil, but a lot of the higher level players will use 7.62, so honestly you should just try both. The Scar H can now 3-tap torso at all ranges. In terms of the automatic battle rifles, this was previously exclusive to the HK417, but now the Scar H can do it too, and it got a pretty massive recoil buff alongside it. The trade-off is that it shoots slower, which is why the Scar H is a direct upgrade to the HK417, but I think this is good for people who want to use the Scar H without having a seizure. The AK-12BR reloads much faster, which addresses the biggest issue that this gun had that was holding it back. While it's still the weakest battle rifle in terms of damage, it's still very accurate, and the reload buff actually makes it reload faster than the M14. But let's be honest, we only ever use this for one reason. It has the beefiest fire sounds in the game. I'm not even gonna get footage for this one, but the last gun worth discussing is the SVU, and I'm gonna keep this one real brief. This thing shoots twice as fast as it did before, and if I see you using it, I am sending a hitman to your house. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the new meta, as it's definitely one of the craziest we've ever seen in Phantom Forces. If you found this video helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing if you're new, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.